My name is Margaret. I'm 66 years old. And the day I trusted him, I almost didn't survive. What he did next still haunts me. It nearly cost my daughter her life. I see his face every time I close my eyes. That smile. That cold, calculated smile. Before I continue, like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I need to know I'm not alone in this. That morning was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. The cake was ready. The flowers were arranged. My daughter was coming home after 3 years abroad. I had no idea I was letting a predator into my home. I didn't know that by nightfall, I'd be holding her hand in a hospital room, praying she'd wake up. And I definitely didn't know that the man I'd invited in had been planning this for months. You'll understand soon. But first, you need to know how it all started. It was February 2024. 14 months ago. I was alone. Again. My husband, Richard, had died 2 years prior. Heart attack. Sudden. Cruel. The kind of death that doesn't give you time to say goodbye. We'd been married for 37 years. 37 years of shared mornings, inside jokes, and comfortable silence. And then one Tuesday afternoon, he collapsed in the garden while trimming the roses. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was gone. The funeral was a blur. Flowers. Condolences. Casseroles from neighbors I barely knew. Everyone said the same things. He's in a better place. Time heals all wounds. You'll get through this. But they didn't have to go home to an empty house. They didn't have to sleep in a bed that suddenly felt too big. They didn't have to cook dinner for one and throw half of it away. My daughter, Emily, was in London finishing her PhD in molecular biology. We talked once a week. Sometimes less. She'd ask if I was okay. I'd lie and say yes. She had her own life. Her own struggles. I didn't want to be a burden. The house felt too big. Too quiet. Every room held memories. Richard's reading glasses on the nightstand. His favorite mug in the cupboard. His coat still hanging by the door. I couldn't bring myself to move any of it. For months, I barely left the house except for groceries. I'd wake up, make coffee, sit in front of the television, and wait for the day to end. I was drowning in silence. My friend, Patricia, finally dragged me out of the house in February 2024. "Margaret, you can't keep living like this," she said. "Richard wouldn't want this for you." She convinced me to start volunteering at the community center downtown. Just to feel useful. Just to hear voices that weren't coming from the television. That's where I met him. His name was David. David Turner. Or at least, that's what he told me. He was 52. Tall. Clean-shaven. Always well-dressed in pressed slacks and button-down shirts. He had salt and pepper hair and warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He said he'd recently moved to town after a difficult divorce. Said his ex-wife had taken everything. The house. The car. Most of his savings. He seemed sad. Lonely. Just like me. He started showing up to the same events. The book club on Tuesdays. The weekend brunches for volunteers. The community gardening project on Saturday mornings. He always sat near me. Always asked how I was doing. Always listened. God, he was so good at listening. He'd lean in when I talked. Not at all the right moments. Remember tiny details from conversations we'd had weeks prior. He made me feel seen. For the first time in 2 years, I felt like I mattered to someone. I didn't realize it then, but that choice to trust him sealed my fate. By April, we were talking every day. It started innocently enough. He'd text me good morning with a little sun emoji. Ask about my day. Send me articles he thought I'd enjoy. News stories about gardening. Recipes he wanted to try. Funny videos of dogs doing silly things. He never pushed. Never rushed. He was patient. Looking back, that patience wasn't kindness. It was strategy. He was studying me. Learning my patterns. Identifying my weaknesses. And I was an easy target. Lonely. Vulnerable. Desperate for connection. He learned everything about me. My routines. My fears. My insecurities. I told him about Richard. How much I missed him. How guilty I felt for even thinking about moving on. He told me it was natural. That Richard would want me to be happy. He told me I deserved companionship. That I was too young to spend the rest of my life alone. I believed him. He knew Emily was coming home in February 2025 for my birthday. He knew I was planning a surprise party. He knew I kept my spare key under the third flower pot on the porch because I'd locked myself out once and told him about it. He knew I took sleeping pills every night because I couldn't handle the silence. He knew my bank was First National. He knew I had Richard's life insurance money sitting in a savings account because I didn't know what to do with it. He knew I was afraid of being a burden to Emily, that I worried she pitied me. And I told him all of it. Every single detail. Every vulnerability. Every fear. Because I thought he cared. One evening in late May, he invited me to dinner. A nice Italian restaurant downtown with white tablecloths and candles on every table. He ordered wine. We talked for hours. He told me about his childhood in Ohio, his career as a financial advisor before the divorce, his dreams of traveling once he got back on his feet. He held my hand across the table. His palm was warm. Dry. Steady. He said, "Margaret, I know we haven't known each other long, but I feel like I've known you forever." I blushed. I actually blushed like a teenager on a first date. He said, "I don't want to be alone anymore. And I don't think you do either." I didn't. I was so tired of being alone. He walked me to my car, kissed me on the cheek, waited until I drove away before getting into his own car. A gentleman, I thought. By June, we were inseparable. We'd meet for coffee 3 times a week, go to the farmer's market on Sundays, watch old movies at my house on Friday nights. By July, he was staying over 3 nights a week. He'd bring flowers, cook dinner, rub my feet while we watched television. He made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time since Richard died. By August, he had a drawer in my bedroom, a toothbrush in the bathroom, a spot in the garage for his car. By September, he had a key. I didn't tell Emily. I don't know why. Maybe I was embarrassed. Maybe I was scared she'd judge me for moving on so quickly. Or maybe, deep down, some part of me knew something was wrong. But I ignored it. I ignored the way he'd go through my mail when he thought I wasn't looking. Picking up envelopes. Studying the return addresses. Asking casual questions about my bills. I ignored the way he'd ask too many questions about Richard's life insurance. How much I'd received. What I planned to do with it. Whether I'd invested it or if it was just sitting in savings. I ignored the way he'd get quiet and cold whenever I mentioned Emily coming home. His jaw would tighten. His smile would fade. He'd change the subject. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I deserved to be happy. I told myself that after 2 years of grief and loneliness, I'd finally found someone who cared about me. I was wrong. So wrong. October 2024. Something shifted. David started acting different. Distant. Irritable. He'd snap at me over small things. The way I'd organized the kitchen. The volume of the television. The brand of coffee I'd bought. Then he'd apologize. Say he was stressed. That he had a lot on his mind. I'd ask what was wrong. He'd say it was nothing. Just some financial issues he was working through. I offered to help. Offered to lend him money. He refused. Said he'd never take money from me. That he was too proud for that. I thought it was noble. Looking back, he was setting the stage. One night in late October, we were watching a movie. Some thriller I can't even remember now. My phone rang. It was Emily. I answered. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. She told me about her research. A breakthrough she'd had. She was excited. Animated. I was so happy to hear her voice. When I hung up, David was staring at me. "You two are close," he said. "Of course. She's my daughter. Does she know about me?" I hesitated. Not yet. I wanted to wait until she came home. Tell her in person. His jaw tightened. Why? I don't know. It just feels like something I should do face to face. He didn't say anything. Just turned back to the television. But the air in the room had changed. Cold. Tense. November came. David started disappearing. He'd leave the house in the morning and not come back until late afternoon. When I'd ask where he'd been, he'd say he was running errands. Looking for work. Meeting old colleagues. But he never had anything to show for it. No job applications. No business cards. No receipts. One day, I found a prepaid cell phone in his jacket pocket. I didn't even know people still used those. When I asked him about it, he said it was for job hunting. That he didn't want to use his regular phone because the battery died too quickly. It didn't make sense. But I didn't push. I was afraid. Afraid of what I might find if I started asking too many questions. Afraid that if I pushed too hard, he'd leave. And I didn't want to be alone again. That fear kept me silent. And it almost killed me. December arrived. Emily called to confirm her flight details. February 8th, 2025. She'd arrive at 3 p.m. I was thrilled. I immediately started planning. I ordered her favorite cake from the bakery downtown. Bought decorations. Made a list of all her favorite meals I'd cook while she was home. I wanted everything to be perfect. David's reaction was strange. When I told him Emily was coming, he barely responded. Just nodded. Kept scrolling through his phone. Aren't you excited to meet her? I asked. Sure, he said. Flat. Emotionless. You don't sound excited. I'm just tired, Margaret. Don't read into everything. But I was reading into it. Because something was very, very wrong. He stopped staying over as much. Said he needed space to think. To figure out his next move career-wise. He was distant. Distracted. Always on that prepaid phone. When I'd walk into a room, he'd quickly hang up. Say it was a spam call. A wrong number. One night in early January, I woke up at 2 a.m. David wasn't in bed. I got up. Walked through the house. I found him in my office. The small room off the living room where I kept my desk and Richard's old filing cabinets. The desk drawer was open. He was holding Richard's death certificate. My heart stopped. What are you doing? I asked. He jumped. Actually jumped. Dropped the paper. I was just looking for a pen, he said. There were 3 pens on the desk. Right in front of him. At 2 a.m.? I asked. I couldn't sleep. I was going to write down some ideas. For a business plan I'm working on. In my office? I didn't want to wake you. He was lying. I could see it in his eyes. The way he wouldn't quite meet my gaze. The way his hands trembled slightly as he put the death certificate back in the drawer. Come back to bed, I said. He followed me. But I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to him breathe beside me. And I knew something was terribly wrong. The next morning, after he left, I checked my office. Nothing was missing. But things had been moved. My bank statements were in a different order. The folder with Richard's insurance paperwork was at the front of the drawer instead of the back. Someone had been going through my things. I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I noticed he'd leave the house for hours with no explanation. Come back and say he'd been at the library. Or the gym. Or running errands. But he never had library books. Never smelled like sweat. Never came home with groceries or receipts. I noticed he'd take phone calls in the garage. Speaking in low, urgent whispers. I'd press my ear against the door, but could never make out the words. I noticed he'd started asking specific questions about Emily. What time exactly would she arrive? How long would she stay? Would she be bringing a boyfriend? Did she have access to my bank accounts? That last question made my blood run cold. Why would you ask that? I said. Just curious. Some kids have joint accounts with their parents. For emergencies. Emily doesn't. Good, he said. That's good. Good for who? I wanted to ask. But I didn't. I was too afraid of the answer. January 15th. I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until he went out. Told me he was going to the hardware store. I did something I'm not proud of. I went through his things. His bag. His wallet. His car. In the glove compartment, I found a folder. Inside were printouts. Of my bank statements. Of Emily's social media profiles. Of property records for my house. Of Richard's obituary. My hands started shaking. I kept digging. Under the passenger seat, I found a small notebook. I opened it. Inside were notes. Handwritten. In careful, precise script. M, widow, 66, owns house outright, approximate $400K in savings, life insurance payout. Daughter, Emily, 29, PhD student, returns February 8th. Routine grocery shopping Tuesdays, book club Thursdays, sleeping pills nightly. Spare key, third flower pot. I felt like I was going to vomit. There was more. Pages and pages of notes. About me. About Emily. About our lives. And then on the last page, a timeline. February 8th, daughter arrives. February 9th, gain access to accounts. February 10th, transfer funds. February 11th, exit. Exit. What did that mean? I put everything back exactly as I found it. I went inside. I sat on the couch. And I tried to breathe. I needed proof. Real proof. I needed to see his phone. January 28th. I'd been watching. Waiting. Planning. David still had no idea I suspected anything. I played the dutiful girlfriend. Smiled. Cooked his favorite meals. Pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was screaming. That evening, he took a shower. He left his phone on the kitchen counter. The prepaid one. I grabbed it. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. No password. He was arrogant enough not to use a password. I opened his messages. There were dozens of texts, all to a contact saved as J. I scrolled to the beginning. November 2024. Found a good one. Widow. Loaded. Lonely. This is going to be easy. How much? Jay had replied. At least 400K. Maybe more. When? Give me a few months. Need to build trust. She has a daughter coming in February. That's when we move. My vision blurred. I kept reading. She's pathetic. Desperate for attention. I could ask her for the money directly and she'd probably give it to me. Don't get cocky. Stick to the plan. I know. Daughter arrives February 8th. Once she's here, I'll have access to everything. The mother trusts me completely. What about the daughter? What about her? Is she going to be a problem? If she is, we'll handle it. Handle it. I felt ball rise in my throat. I kept scrolling. January 15th. She's getting suspicious. Caught me in her office. Abort? No. Too close. I'll just be more careful. You sure? She's too weak to do anything. Even if she suspects something, she won't act on it. She's too afraid of being alone. He was right. I had been too afraid. But not anymore. January 25th. 3 days until go time. You ready? Been ready. This is going to be the easiest job yet. What's the exit plan? Once we have the money, we disappear. If they come looking, we'll be long gone. And if something goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, well, accidents happen. Accidents. My entire body went cold. There were photos attached to some of the messages. Photos of my house. Different angles. Times of day. Photos of my car in the driveway. Photos of my mail. Close-ups of envelopes with my bank's logo. Photos of Emily. Screenshots from her Facebook. Her Instagram. Her university profile page. And then I saw one that made me drop the phone. A photo of me. Sleeping. Taken from the doorway of my bedroom. I could see the date stamp. January 20th. 1 week ago. He'd stood there. Watching me sleep. Taking photos. I picked up the phone with trembling hands. There was one more message. From yesterday. Daughter arrives in 11 days. Once she's in the house, we move fast. She'll have access to everything. What if she doesn't? She's the only family. The mother will give her access if she asks. Trust me. And after, we make sure there are no loose ends. No loose ends. He was going to kill us. Both of us. I heard the shower turn off. I put the phone back exactly where it was. I walked into the living room. I sat down. And I started planning. I didn't go to the police. I know how that sounds. Everyone says, why didn't you just call the police? But you don't understand. I was terrified. What if he found out before they could arrest him? What if he hurt me? What if I was wrong? What if there was some explanation I hadn't considered? What if the police didn't believe me? I didn't have concrete evidence. Just text messages on a phone that wasn't even registered to him. What if he had an alibi? A story? What if he convinced them I was a jealous, paranoid old woman? And most of all, what if he ran? What if he disappeared before they could catch him, and then came back later for revenge? These thoughts consumed me. I barely slept, barely ate. I'd stare at him across the dinner table and see a stranger. A predator. A man who'd spent months worming his way into my life with the sole intention of destroying it. I decided to wait. I'd confront him after Emily arrived. When I wasn't alone. 2 against 1. We'd be safe. Or so I thought. I stopped being affectionate. Made excuses when he wanted to stay over. I'm not feeling well. I need to prepare for Emily's visit. I think I'm coming down with something. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Is everything okay, Margaret? He asked one evening. His voice was sweet. Concerned. The same voice he'd used when he first told me he was falling in love with me. It made my skin crawl. I'm just stressed, I said. About Emily's visit. Why are you stressed? You're excited to see her, aren't you? Of course. I want everything to be perfect. He smiled. That cold, calculated smile I'd once found charming. I can't wait to meet her, he said. My stomach turned. I'm sure she'll like you, I lied. I hope so. I'd hate for there to be any tension. The way he said tension made my blood run cold. I forced a smile. There won't be. But there would be. Because I was going to tell Emily everything the moment she arrived. And together, we were going to end this. I didn't realize it then, but my plan had a fatal flaw. I assumed I'd have time. I assumed he'd wait until after Emily settled in. I assumed wrong. February 8th, 2025. The day I'd been both anticipating and dreading. Emily's flight was scheduled to land at 3 p.m. I woke up early, made coffee, tried to calm my nerves. David had stayed at his apartment the night before. Said he wanted to give me and Emily space. I was relieved. I drove to the airport at 2 p.m., arrived early, and waited at the baggage claim. When Emily walked through the doors, I almost cried. She looked so much like Richard. Same dark hair. Same sharp eyes. Same determined set to her jaw. "Mom," she called, waving. I ran to her. Hugged her so tight she laughed. "Can't breathe, Mom," she said. I let go. Studied her face. "You look tired. 12-hour flight. But I'm here." She smiled. "And I'm not leaving for 2 whole weeks. 2 weeks. 14 days. I prayed it would be enough time to fix this mess." We grabbed her luggage and headed to the car. On the drive home, we caught up. She told me about her research, her colleagues, the rain in London that never seemed to stop. I told her about the party I'd planned, the cake I'd ordered, how excited I was to have her home. I didn't mention David. Not yet. I needed to tell her in private. Somewhere safe. We pulled into the driveway at 5 p.m. David's car was already there. My heart sank. "Who's that?" Emily asked, pointing at the silver sedan. I took a deep breath. "A friend. His name is David. He's been helping me around the house." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Helping how?" "It's complicated. I'll explain inside." We got out, grabbed her bags, walked to the front door. David opened it before we could. He was wearing a blue button-down shirt. Khakis. A warm smile. The perfect gentleman. "You must be Emily," he said, extending his hand. "I've heard so much about you." Emily hesitated, then shook his hand. "Nice to meet you." Her voice was polite, but I could hear the wariness in it. We went inside. David had set the table. Made dinner. Roast chicken. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. "I hope you don't mind," he said. "I wanted to do something special for your first night home." Emily glanced at me. I could see the questions in her eyes. "Who is this man? Why is he in your house? Why is he acting like he lives here?" We sat down to eat. The meal was awkward. Tense. David kept asking Emily questions. About her work, her research, her funding, whether she had student loans, whether she planned to move back to the States permanently. Financial questions. Probing questions. Emily answered politely, but I could see her discomfort growing. She kept looking at me, silently asking me to explain. I couldn't. Not yet. Not with him sitting right there. After dinner, Emily helped me clear the plates. We went into the kitchen. She closed the door. "Mom," she whispered. "Who is this guy?" "It's complicated," I said quietly. "That's what you said in the car. I need more than that. I'll explain later. When he's gone. Why is he here now?" "I don't know. He wasn't supposed to." The kitchen door opened. David stood there, smiling. "Everything okay in here?" he asked. "Fine," I said quickly. "Just cleaning up." "Let me help," he said. He didn't help. He just stood there, watching us. Emily and I exchanged a glance. She was scared. I could see it in her eyes. And she didn't even know the half of it yet. We finished cleaning up. David suggested we watch a movie. To celebrate Emily being home, he said. Emily declined. Said she was tired. Wanted to unpack and sleep. "Of course," David said. "You must be exhausted." He walked over to her. Put his hand on her shoulder. She flinched. I saw it. A small, involuntary recoil. David saw it too. His smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it was back. Bright and warm. But his eyes were cold. "Well, I should get going anyway," he said. "Let you two catch up." He kissed me on the cheek. I had to force myself not to pull away. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. I nodded. He left. The moment the door closed, Emily turned to me. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" I locked the door. Checked the windows. Drew the curtains. "Sit down," I said. We sat on the couch. And I told her everything. How I'd met David. How he'd charmed me. How I'd let him into my life. How I'd found the notes in his car. The text messages on his phone. How he was planning to rob us. Maybe kill us. Emily's face went pale. "We need to call the police," she said immediately. "I know. But I'm scared. What if?" "Mom, he's dangerous. We can't wait." "You're right. You're right. I'll call them right now." I pulled out my phone. And then I heard it. A key turning in the lock. The front door opened. David walked in. He wasn't smiling anymore. I knew you'd tell her, he said. Emily stood up. Get out of this house. This isn't your house, David said calmly. Get out. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a gun. Everything stopped. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. A gun. He had a gun. Both of you, he said quietly. Sit down. Emily grabbed my hand. Mom. Sit down. We sat. David closed the door behind him. Locked it. He kept the gun pointed at us. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to transfer every penny you have into an account I'm going to give you. And then I'm going to leave. And you're never going to see me again. And if we don't? Emily asked. Her voice was steady, braver than I could ever be. Then I kill your mother. Right in front of you. He turned the gun toward me. I couldn't breathe. Then I kill you, he continued. Make it look like a robbery. I'll be in Mexico before the police even find your bodies. You won't get away with this, Emily said. David laughed. I already have. 3 times. 3 times. 3 women. He'd done this before. You're not the first lonely widow I've charmed, Margaret, he said. And you won't be the last. Although I have to admit, you were one of the easier ones. So desperate. So grateful for any attention. His words cut deeper than any knife. Why are you doing this? I asked. My voice was shaking. Money, he said simply. It's always about money. And you people make it so easy. Rich, lonely, pathetic. Emily lunged. I don't know what she was thinking. Maybe she wasn't thinking at all. She just moved. Grabbed the lamp off the side table. Swung it at his head. He turned. Fired. The sound was deafening. Emily screamed. Fell. Blood. So much blood. Emily! I screamed. She was clutching her shoulder. Her face was white. David pointed the gun at her head. Transfer the money, he said. Now, or the next bullet goes in her brain. I didn't think. I just acted. I grabbed the letter opener from the mail basket on the coffee table, and I drove it into his leg. He screamed. Drop the gun. I grabbed it. I'd never held a gun before. It was heavier than I expected. David lunged at me. I pulled the trigger. The recoil knocked me backward. The bullet hit him in the chest. He fell. Blood spread across his shirt. He looked at me. Shocked. You shot me, he gasped. Yes, I said. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No remorse. Just cold, hard satisfaction. Emily was sobbing. Mom, my shoulder. I dropped the gun. Ran to her. Applied pressure to the wound. You're okay, I said. You're going to be okay. I called 911. Told them there'd been a shooting. That my daughter was hurt. That I'd shot an intruder. The operator told me to stay on the line. I held Emily's hand and waited. David was still alive. Barely. He was trying to say something. I leaned closer. You ruined everything. He whispered. No, I said. You did. And then I turned away. I didn't watch him die. I just held my daughter and waited for help to arrive. The ambulance arrived within 7 minutes. Paramedics flooded the house. One team worked on Emily, stabilized her, loaded her onto a stretcher. Another team worked on David. One of the paramedics shook his head. He's gone. David was dead. I'd killed him. I waited for the guilt to come. It didn't. The police arrived. Asked questions. Took statements. I told them everything. They found David's phone. The text messages. The notes in his car. They found the gun. Ran the serial number. It was unregistered. Untraceable. They told me I'd acted in self-defense. That I'd saved my daughter's life. That I was a hero. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt numb. They let me ride in the ambulance with Emily. She was conscious. In pain. But alive. Mom, she whispered. You saved me. You saved yourself, I said. You were so brave. I was so scared. Me too. At the hospital, they rushed her into surgery. The bullet had lodged in her shoulder. Missed the bone. Missed the major arteries. She was lucky. We were both lucky. I sat in the waiting room for 3 hours. Patricia arrived. She'd heard the news. She held my hand. Didn't ask questions. Just sat with me. The surgeon finally came out. She's going to be fine, he said. Complete recovery expected. She'll need physical therapy, but there shouldn't be any permanent damage. I started crying. I couldn't stop. All the fear, all the tension, all the terror of the last month came pouring out. Patricia held me while I sobbed. It's over, she kept saying. It's over. But it wasn't over. Not really. The police investigation took weeks. They dug into David's past. His real name was Marcus Webb. He was 54, not 52. He had a criminal record dating back to his 20s. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. He'd served 3 years in prison in the late 90s. After his release, he'd changed his methods. Started targeting vulnerable women instead of businesses. Widows, divorcees, women with money and no one to protect them. The police found evidence of at least 4 previous victims. 3 were dead. 1 had died in a car accident in 2018. Police had ruled it an accident at the time, but now they were reopening the case. 1 had died of a prescription drug overdose in 2020. Again, ruled accidental. Now being reinvestigated. 1 had died in a house fire in 2022. Also ruled accidental. The 4th victim was alive, but she'd been swindled out of her life savings. Over $200,000. She'd reported it to the police, but Marcus had disappeared before they could arrest him. She'd never seen her money again. The detective in charge of the case came to see me. Detective Sarah Morrison. Mid-40s. Kind eyes. Firm handshake. She told me everything they'd found. "You're lucky to be alive," she said. "I know. He was escalating. We believe he was planning to kill you and your daughter. Make it look like a home invasion. He'd done it before." The woman who died in the fire? We found evidence that he'd been living with her. That he'd taken out a life insurance policy on her weeks before she died, with himself as the beneficiary. My blood ran cold. Did he have a policy on me? Detective Morrison nodded grimly. We found the paperwork in his apartment, dated 6 weeks ago. $500,000. I felt sick. He'd been planning to kill me. For months. Every kind word. Every gentle touch. Every moment of intimacy. It had all been a lie. A performance. Leading to my death. What about his partner? I asked. The person he was texting. Jay. We're still looking. The number was a burner phone. Turned off right after the shooting. We're trying to trace it, but so far nothing. So they're still out there? For now. But we'll find them. I wasn't convinced. If this Jay person was smart enough to use a burner phone, they were smart enough to disappear. But at least Marcus was gone. At least he couldn't hurt anyone else. Emily was released from the hospital after 4 days. She came home with her arm in a sling and a prescription for pain medication. She was quieter than usual. Withdrawn. She'd wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Nightmares about the shooting. I'd go to her room. Hold her. Tell her she was safe. But I was having nightmares too. I'd dream that I hadn't pulled the trigger fast enough. That Marcus had killed Emily right in front of me. That I was alone again. Forever. We started therapy. Both of us. Separately and together. Dr. Helena Chun. A trauma specialist recommended by the hospital. She was patient. Non-judgmental. She helped us process what had happened. "You're both survivors," she said. "And survival isn't pretty. It's messy and painful and complicated. But you're here. You're alive. That's what matters." Emily struggled with guilt. "I should have seen it," she said during one of our joint sessions. "I should have known something was wrong when I met him." "You'd just gotten off a 12-hour flight," I said. "How could you have known? I should have protected you. You did protect me. You grabbed that lamp. You gave me time. I got shot, and you survived." Dr. Chin leaned forward. "Emily, you were put in an impossible situation. You acted with incredible courage. Your mother is alive because of you." Emily started crying. "I was so scared." "I know," I said, taking her hand. "So was I." We cried together. It helped. Slowly, gradually, we started to heal. Emily's shoulder recovered. The physical therapy was painful, but she was determined. "I'm not letting him take anything else from me," she said. She was stronger than I ever gave her credit for. The story made the news. Widow kills intruder to save daughter. Con man shot dead in home invasion. Serial predator targeting widows finally stopped. Reporters called. Knocked on the door. Wanted interviews. I said no to all of them. I didn't want to be a story. I didn't want to relive it for entertainment. But one journalist was persistent. Rachel Torres. From a true crime podcast. She sent me an email. Respectful. Thoughtful. Not pushy. She explained that she'd been investigating Marcus Webb for over a year. That she'd interviewed his previous victim. That she wanted to tell the full story to warn other women. I agreed to talk to her. We met at a coffee shop. Emily came with me. Rachel was younger than I expected. Early 30s. Sharp. Empathetic. She recorded our conversation. Asked good questions. Didn't sensationalize. She wanted the truth. And I gave it to her. The podcast came out 3 months later. The Widow Maker, the Marcus Webb story. It was 6 episodes long. Detailed. Thoroughly researched. Rachel interviewed his previous victim. The detectives. A forensic psychologist who specialized in con artists. And me. Hearing my own voice tell the story was surreal. But also cathartic. People reached out after the podcast aired. Other women who'd been targeted by men like Marcus. Women who'd barely escaped with their lives. Women who weren't as lucky. Their stories broke my heart. But they also gave me purpose. It's been 4 months since the shooting. Since I killed Marcus Webb. Since my daughter almost died in my living room. We sold the house. I couldn't stay there. Too many ghosts. Too much blood. Even after professional cleaners came and removed every trace, I could still see it. The spot where Emily fell. The spot where Marcus died. I'd walk past those places and my chest would tighten. So we left. Emily and I bought a small townhouse together near her university. She decided to finish her PhD remotely. Stay close to me. I'm not leaving you alone, she said. Emily, I don't want to hold you back. You're not. I'm choosing this. I want to be here. And she was. We're rebuilding our lives. Together. It's not easy. Some days are harder than others. I still have nightmares. Still check the locks 3 times before bed. Still flinch when a stranger gets too close. I don't date. Don't even think about it. The idea of trusting someone again makes me physically ill. Emily says I'll heal. That one day I'll be ready. I'm not so sure. But I'm trying. We both are. I joined a support group for survivors of violent crime. 10 people. All with their own stories. Their own traumas. We meet every Tuesday evening. We talk. We listen. We don't judge. It helps. Knowing I'm not alone. Knowing other people understand what it's like to be betrayed. To be hurt. To fight back. One woman in the group, Janet, lost her husband to a con artist like Marcus. He drained their bank accounts and disappeared. Her husband had a heart attack from the stress. She blamed herself for years. I should have seen it, she said during one meeting. I should have known. I reached over and squeezed her hand. It's not your fault, I said. These men are professionals. They know exactly what to say. What to do. How to make us trust them. She cried. I just miss him so much. I know. I miss my husband too. We're all just trying to survive. To move forward. To find some kind of peace. In August, Marcus's sister filed a wrongful death lawsuit against me. She claimed I'd murdered her brother in cold blood. That it wasn't self-defense. That I was a jealous, unstable woman who'd killed him because he tried to end the relationship. It was absurd. But I still had to defend myself. I hired a lawyer. Susan Park. Tough. Experienced. Confident. They don't have a case, she told me. The evidence is overwhelming. But we still have to go through the motions. The deposition was brutal. Marcus's sister, Jennifer, sat across from me. She looked so much like him. Same eyes. Same sharp features. She glared at me with pure hatred. You killed my brother, she said. Your brother tried to kill me and my daughter, I replied calmly. He would never. The police found his phone. His notes. His plan. He was a con artist. He'd done this before. Those were fabricated. You planted them. Why would I do that? Because you're a murderer. Susan stepped in. That's enough. Stick to the facts. The deposition lasted 4 hours. Jennifer's lawyer tried every angle. Tried to paint me as vindictive. Unstable. Violent. But the evidence didn't support it. The case was dismissed 3 weeks later. The judge ruled it was clearly self-defense. Jennifer appealed. The appeal was denied. It was over. Legally, at least. But I knew Jennifer would never forgive me. In her mind, I'd murdered her brother. She didn't want to see the truth. Didn't want to believe that he'd been a monster. I understood that. Grief makes us believe things that aren't true. Makes us defend people who don't deserve it. I hoped, for her sake, that she'd eventually see the truth. But I wasn't holding my breath. In September, I received a letter. No return address. Just my name and the address of the townhouse. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single handwritten page. Dear Margaret, you don't know me. But I know you. I was Marcus's partner. The person he called Jay. I want you to know that I had nothing to do with the violence. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I just wanted the money. When I heard what happened, I was horrified. I didn't know he had a gun. I didn't know he was planning to kill you. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything. I know I'm complicit. I helped him target you. I encouraged him. I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. I'm turning myself in. By the time you read this, I'll be in custody. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Jay. I read the letter 3 times. Then I called Detective Morrison. She confirmed it. A woman named Jessica Trent had walked into a police station in Nevada and confessed to being Marcus's accomplice. She was arrested, charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory to attempted murder. She pled guilty. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison. I don't know if her apology was genuine. I don't know if she truly felt remorse. But at least she was facing consequences. At least she couldn't hurt anyone else. In October, I started volunteering with a nonprofit, Safe Haven, an organization that helps victims of financial abuse and romance scams. They provide legal assistance, financial counseling, emotional support. I share my story at their workshops, teach people how to recognize red flags, how to protect themselves, how to trust their instincts. It's hard, reliving the trauma over and over. But it's also healing, turning my pain into purpose, helping others avoid the same fate. One woman approached me after a workshop. She was in her early 70s, trembling, tearful. I think I'm in a situation like yours, she said quietly. Tell me, I said. She told me about a man she'd met online. How charming he was. How he'd started asking for money. Small amounts at first, then larger. How he'd promised to pay her back, but never did. How he'd started pressuring her to give him access to her bank accounts. How she felt trapped. Ashamed. Afraid. You're not trapped, I told her. And you have nothing to be ashamed of. These men are professionals. They know exactly how to manipulate us. What do I do? She asked. Cut him off. Block him. Report him to the police. Change your passwords. Alert your bank. And get support. You don't have to do this alone. She cried. Hugged me. Thanked me. 2 weeks later, she emailed me. She'd done everything I suggested. The man had disappeared. She'd lost money. But not her life. She was safe. Thank you, she wrote. You saved me. I cried when I read that. Because she'd saved herself. I'd just shown her the way. One evening in November, Emily and I were making dinner together. She was chopping vegetables. I was stirring sauce. Mom, she said suddenly. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it? Killing him. I stopped stirring. Turned to look at her. No, I said honestly. Do you think I should? She shook her head. No. I wanted to know. Why? Because I don't regret it either. And I thought maybe there was something wrong with me. I set down the spoon. Took her hands. There's nothing wrong with you. He was going to kill us. You know that, right? I know. But I still feel. I don't know. Conflicted. That's normal. Taking a life, even in self-defense, is complicated. We're allowed to feel relief and guilt at the same time. Do you feel guilty? Sometimes. Mostly I feel angry. Angry that he put us in that position. That he forced me to make that choice. Emily nodded. Me too. We hugged. And I realized something. We were both stronger than we'd ever been. Trauma hadn't broken us. It had forged us into something harder. Sharper. Unbreakable. It's February 2026 now. 1 year since Emily came home. 1 year since I killed Marcus Webb. We celebrated quietly. Just the two of us. Made dinner. Watched a movie. Went to bed early. No fanfare. No drama. Just gratitude. Gratitude that we're alive. That we're together. That we survived. I still think about him sometimes. Wonder who he would have targeted next if I hadn't stopped him. How many more women he would have hurt. Robbed. Killed. I saved myself. I saved Emily. But I also saved strangers I'll never meet. Women who will never know how close they came to being his next victim. That thought brings me peace. I'm not a hero. I'm just a survivor. A widow who trusted the wrong man. A mother who fought back. A woman who refused to be a victim. And I'm still here. Still breathing. Still fighting. Still healing. If you're watching this and something feels wrong in your relationship, trust that feeling. I ignored my instincts. I made excuses. I convinced myself I was overreacting. And I almost died because of it. Don't make the same mistake. If someone is pressuring you for money, stop. If someone is isolating you from friends and family, run. If someone makes you feel like you're crazy for questioning them, you're not. You're smart. You're strong. You're worthy of real love. Not manipulation disguised as affection. Reach out. Tell someone. Get help. Your life is worth more than your loneliness. Your safety is worth more than your pride. My name is Margaret. I'm 66 years old, and I survived a predator who spent months planning my death. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Like this video, subscribe, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And please tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I want to know I'm not alone in this fight, because I spent so long feeling isolated, feeling ashamed, feeling like I was the only one who'd been fooled. But I'm not, and neither are you. We are survivors. We are warriors. We are unbreakable. And our stories matter. Never forget that.